this is Mark here with Anastacio with my partner James, and we're going to break down some recovery disarms. And we're going to work off of what's called an outside vine or a backhand vine. And we're going to look at why we do recovery disarms and some various options that we can choose from. So when we break down a recovery disarm, it is not a transition because I feel like it. It's a transition because it's necessary to accomplish the goal of taking the stick away or the weapon. And so I follow the first disarm or the first technique that I try to do all the way to the end. And until I realize that it's not possible to complete it, that's when I'll transition. And so this is heavily predicated on the fact that I have to understand hand positions and where a grip or an arm is strong and where it's weak, so I can make the right decision and not just give up that position entirely to go into a second technique just because that's the one I know. So again, we're working off the outside vine here, which looks like this. If I finish this all the way, I should get it here where I can disarm it. So let's go over some variations as to recovering because I failed. So I start off the same process. I go through the whole thing and I don't get it here. So my push and pull is inadequate where I can't get the disarm. So I'm going to remove my overhook with my stick. I'm going to turn my body and then I'm going to yank the stick out of his hand with my entire body stepping back in the direction of his stick. So I'm not just pulling it with my arm, I'm now going to yank it with my entire body and pull it out of his hand. And the reason why I decided to do that is because the position was already set up. I didn't have to change anything other than the fact of removing my overhook. My hand position was already there. So that's going to be an instant recovery as to the outside vine or the backhand vine that we initially tried to do. Now I end up in the same position and let's say I can't pull it out either. Maybe I lack the strength, maybe I lack the positioning. So what I'm going to do is, this is more apparent when you have a hooking or punyo section that is available to strike. If not, then this follow-up may not be for you. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hooking section and hook it on top here. I'm going to press that down as I lift this up with my elbow, and I'm going to kind of pop it out like so. And I'm just going to kind of launch it forward like that. So instead of me working on separating his hand from his stick, I'm going to work on separating kind of the opposite. I don't really care about his hand anymore. I care more so about getting the stick out of his hand, like so. Okay? So now this brings us to the third position where, let's say the punyo wasn't available. So if you slide your hand down, you hold it like that. So I got really nothing to hit here. I don't have this leverage. I don't have this leverage here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer to a longer range into what's called an Olisi vine. I'm going to take the stick. I'm going to go from the right side underneath up on the left side. I'm going to press down with my stick like so, and that's going to bring his stick onto my wrist. Now this is a partial hold. I can't keep him here forever, but I can do that long enough to free my safety hand to go palm up and then finish clockwise with my safety hand to disarm the stick, and then I have my double stick format there. Alternatively, when I decide to do that, if that is the method that I want to go with, I can grab higher up on the stick to go into like a pakal or advanced grip, but if you don't know how to sinawali or flow with both opposite grips, maybe that's not what you want to go for as well. So there is a variation within the variation. And so for this last one here, this is where we're really going to break down the position, guys. I start off the same way, and I go over here, I get to this position, and now I'm going to look at probably the most simple disarm follow-up that I can give you guys. But let's isolate this position right now. So one of the kind of principles in disarming is you never want to go towards the hand. You don't want to sink the stick deeper into their palm. So as of right now, I'm going to put my stick down so I can help point it out. But his palm is facing up, and his grip, which is an impartial closure because it's not definite, it's only closed because his fingers are flexing. This is where I want to take the stick out. Now if you also noticed here, is that I've rotated his arm clockwise to a point where it cannot rotate anymore. So he cannot exceed this rotation, which means that I shouldn't go backwards because that would unwind his arm, and I shouldn't go down into his palm. So by understanding that position, I can isolate how I need to take the stick out of his hands. So very simply, with or without the stick, if I was in this position, I already have leverage in my elbow, so I look at the weakness of his grip, and I just kind of pop it over, and I take the stick out. And it's that simple. So again, if we start off with the backhand vine like so, I get that in here, I just reposition myself, use my elbow, and just kind of pop it out. Okay? So that can be achieved without losing the position, but I can also accomplish that same thing if I was an empty hand here, and I tried to do this disarm, I couldn't get it. I can grab this stick, I can discard my stick, and I can kind of pop it out with a punch of my elbow, which is essentially very similar to one of the disarms that we did earlier, where when there was a punyo, and I kind of used the hooking section here and popped it out. So with or without that, with or without my stick, I can discard that, grab on, and just pop it out this way, because I understand the weakness in his shoulder rotation and in the orientation of his grip. Okay, so when you guys recover disarms, it's very important. You go all the way to the end of the first one, and then you look for the follow-up. If you don't need the follow-up, don't do it. It's a waste of time. Don't show off your skill of doing 4 disarms in a row and choosing when to take it off. You could do that with a training partner in a gym on the mats. But if you ever you're in a position where you felt like disarming was the right thing to do, with all things being said, make sure you go for that one that is going to be the strongest that you feel you can accomplish. It's going to be the quickest one to the goal, and it's going to be the most simple disarm that you can possibly do, because we're trying to accomplish the goal of subtracting the stick. We're not trying to wow them with our technique. And that's very important to understand when you're training single stick. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you guys want to train with us and get more detailed breakdowns, make sure you check anastaciokhalid.com/online-academy. The link will be in the description box. We have different tiers of how you can train with us, so please check that out if you are interested in training FMA online. Well, until next time, we'll catch you guys then.